am ready to go, Chief. If you are ready to go, I've got right on the nose.
Well, let me welcome everybody to the meeting of the Judicial Council. This is my first meeting as chair, and I appreciate those who've been welcoming to that position. I hope that I will chair many fewer meetings than my predecessor, Chief Justice Milton, has. But let me remind you at the beginning, if you're a guest to the meeting, if you could email rsvp@georgiacourts.gov so we have a record for the minutes. And as always, these meetings are being recorded and live streamed, and there may be, they are open to the press and the public. There may be members of the press listening. If you are not speaking, if you'll mute your devices, and if you're having any trouble hearing, please email Tracy Mason or Cheryl Karunas to let her know, and they'll help you get back on board. The first thing we have to do today is to swear in several new members of the Judicial Council. If I call out your name, if you'll turn your video on so we can see you, or at least you'll be visible to those who are on your little box. Presiding Justice Michael Boggs, who's now the Vice Chair. Vice Chief Judge Amanda Mercier from the Court of Appeals. Judge Timothy Hamill from the 9th Judicial Administrative District. Judge Render Hurd, the President-elect of the Council of Juvenile Court Judges. Judge Violet Bennett, the President-elect of the Council of State Court Judges. Chief Judge Rebecca Pitts, the President-elect of the Council of Magistrate Court Judges. And Judge Jadwana Baker, the President-elect of the Council of Municipal Court Judges, and then Elizabeth Fite, who is our new President of the State Bar of Georgia. What I'm going to do is I will ask you to raise your right hand if you're able to do that. And then I'm going to read the oath to you and ask you at the end to swear or affirm. So if you are able, please raise your hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as a member of the Judicial Council of Georgia, according to the best of your ability and understanding, that as a member of the Judicial Council, you will endeavor to improve the administration of justice in this state for the benefit of the public as well as the bench and bar, that you will strive to improve the judicial system of this state as a whole as well as its parts, and that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Georgia, so help you God. If you agree, please say I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
All right.
I do.
To every one of you, as members of the Judicial Council, we look forward to working with you during your tenure. Ms. Clanton, will you please take the roll of members?
I am happy to do that. I know our Chief Justice is here. Presiding Justice Michael Boggs.
Here.
Chief Judge Brian Rickman.
Here.
Vice Chief Judge Amanda Mercier.
Hello, I'm here.
Judge Walter Davis.
Here.
President of the Council of Superior Court Judges Wade Padgett.
I'm here.
President-elect Arthur Smith.
Here.
Judge Jeffrey Kite.
I'm here.
Judge Melanie Cross. Judge Sizemore.
I'm here.
Chief Judge Asha Jackson.
I'm here.
Chief Judge Chris Brasher.
Here.
Chief Judge Fletcher Sams.
I'm here.
Judge Robert Flournoy.
I'm here. Thank you.
Chief Judge Sarah Wall.
Here.
Judge Timothy Hamill.
Here.
Judge Jim Blanchard.
Here.
President of the Council of State Court Judges, Judge Al Wong.
Here.
President-elect Violet Bennett.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. President of the Council of Juvenile Court Judges, Chief Judge Greg Price.
Present.
President-elect Render Hurd, Judge Render Hurd.
Here.
President of the Council of Probate Court Judges President, Judge Thomas Lakes.
Here.
President-elect Judge Sean Rhodes.
Here.
President of the Council of Municipal Court, Magistrate Court Judges, Judge Quinn Casper.
I'm here.
President-elect Chief Judge Rebecca Pitts.
I'm here.
President of the Council of Municipal Court Judges, Judge Lori Duff.
Present.
New Judicial Council member and President-elect Judge Jadana Baker.
Here.
And President of the State Bar of Georgia, Elizabeth Fight.
I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Chief, that completes the roll. Chief Justice?
All right, now, our next order of business is to adopt the minutes of the April 23rd, 2021 general session of the council. They were in the packets that was sent around. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Or a
Second.
second?
Second.
Are any members of the council opposed to approving the minutes? They will be approved. The main focus of this meeting was to get an update of how things are going around the state in your various classes of court and judicial affiliate agencies since the statewide judicial emergency order ended on June 30th. We have a few updates up front, and then I want to ask the various representatives to let us know if there are any particular problems they're seeing or things that are working out particularly well that could be shared. A couple things I just want to note up front. The statewide order has ended, but there is authority for the Chief Superior Court judges to enter local judicial emergency orders and for the chief judges of the state and superior courts to enter orders granting relief from statutory speedy trial requirements. We've talked about that a lot. We have only seen about maybe 24 orders of those sorts since June 30th. There are 159 counties, so that means most folks are not using those orders, we think, and just want to make sure that people, are comfortable with that, and also remind you, if you do have an order of that type, it needs to be served on the clerk of the Supreme Court, as well as others. We are, as of, I think today, AOC will be posting all of those orders we receive on its website, along with the other pandemic-related orders. So, if members of the public or lawyers or judges want a single repository where they can find orders to know what's going on around the state or to get samples, those will be on the AOC website. I think Justice LaGrua is on. If we can ask her for an update on the work of the Judicial COVID-19 Task Force.
We'll come back. Do what you gotta do.
Hey, Chief, thanks. The COVID task force met again yesterday. We're continuing to monitor how things are going around the state. Civil trials have picked up. The criminal trials have picked up. There is some disparity in the counties in terms of who is enforcing mask and distancing protocols. That has been left to the counties at this point, or the circuits. We are working on some hopeful guidance going forward as the pandemic hopefully continues to wind down. Both the criminal and civil subcommittees are working on those things. Additionally, we hope to have, I'm coordinating with our new state bar president, Elizabeth Fight, and Russ McClellan, who chairs the civil subcommittee, and Judge Chris Brasher of Fulton, to set up some lunch and learns potentially at the state bar to assist folks with technology tips, I guess is a good word. Fulton County has been very successful in selecting juries for civil cases remotely and doing some other things via technology. So we're hoping to work with him to get the word out to the other judges across the state.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Justice Agrua? All right.
I would just request if things are going well or not going well, if y'all could keep me apprised of what those are so I can pass those on to everyone else, I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Justice Agrua. The next item we're going to get a quick update on is a letter that the U.S. Department of Justice, the Associate Attorney General, issued that relates to evictions. Justice Peterson is kind of coordinating the Supreme Court's efforts, along with folks from AOC and some of the class of court. I think he's on the call. Let me ask Justice Peterson to just give us an update on the letter and what we're trying to do in Georgia.
Thank you, Chief. As many of y'all may know, on June 24th, the Associate Attorney General of the United States sent a letter to each of the Chief Justices of state Supreme Courts and state court administrators, just outlining the concern of national scope about the evictions that are going to be coming as the nationwide eviction moratorium ends at the end of July. And given the nature of litigation involving that moratorium, it's exceptionally unlikely that it will be extended. So that moratorium will be lifted at the end of July. There will be a lot of evictions and dispossessories that proceed shortly thereafter as a result. There have been a ton of terrific programs that magistrate judges across the state have been working on. Tabitha Ponder has been coordinating a working group of late among a number of magistrate judges, really just trying to put together what are some best practices. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds that are available to help mitigate eviction issues, to help mediate dispossessories. And it's really just a problem of connecting the people who need the money with the people who have the money and the people who know how to draw it down. DCA is engaged with that. Georgia Legal Services and Atlanta Legal Aid is engaged with that, a number of other nonprofits around the state. And so please, especially if you're a magistrate judge, if this is not something that's on your radar screen, please connect with Tabitha or the Magistrate Judges Council and see what you can do to help bring some of these resources to your community.
Any questions for Justice Peterson? I would just encourage folks, who are going to have eviction cases pending, to, kind of see that train coming down the track. It's coming pretty fast and it may be a pretty big train. And the more we can do in the next couple weeks to think about ways to deal with it, the better. The last update is regarding funding for under the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the big pot of federal money that was voted on earlier this year. Presiding Justice Boggs is on and is going to give us an update to the extent we can give one at this point.
Thank you, Chief. As many of you know, President Biden signed into law on March 11th of 2021 the American Rescue Plan Act. That act, as you probably know, contains $1.9 trillion in funding for various purposes. That act followed, just so we can keep separate all of the various funding sources, that act followed the enactment of nearly $4 trillion in COVID relief in 2020. You will remember that much of that came in three buckets. One was through the Year-End Spending and Appropriations Act through Congress. The other was through the CARES Act, and the other was through the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So this funding has now been available, and many of you are aware that the governor has set up working groups to address how some of these funds might be spent. I want to update you on this funding. First, letting you know that the funding falls essentially into two categories. That is funding that goes to states and states would be the recipients and the distributors of those funds. Then there's also funding that goes to municipalities and nonprofits. And so coordinating those funds would, in my opinion, be very, very important. And it's because everybody's going to be trying to reach into some of this federal funding. That said, I want to give you an update on where the governor's office is on this funding, particularly in light of the public comments about the creation of 3 working groups to address the funding. The governor's office, you should know, has received and is reviewing our request for funding that we have submitted to the governor. You should also know that to date, the state of Georgia has received approximately 2.4 billion of the anticipated 5.8 billion allocation that will be coming to the state. You know, as I stated, that the governor has announced several committees that will receive grant applications and make recommendations to the governor on these ARP allocations. Those committees will be responsible, you should know, for recommending approximately 850 million of the 2.4 billion tranche. The remaining of that funding is going to be granted at the governor's discretion. And you should know that allocations of that funding to the judicial branch will not be subject to committee review, and instead will come out of the governor's discretionary allocation. We have, as you know, on behalf of the Judicial Council, submitted to the governor earlier this year a request for funding across judicial branches. And in reviewing the Judicial Council's request, those broke down, according to the governor's office and my review, into basically 3 categories: COVID exposure mitigation, personnel to assist with case backlogs, and then facility and IT upgrades. The governor's office is triaging those categories and has already prioritized COVID exposure mitigation. You should also know that GEMA has been directed to give direct allocations of existing PPE resources, that is plexiglass barriers, COVID rapid tests, cleaning supplies, et cetera, to courts. And there's an ongoing process now in its infant stages to address how that might work for your respective classes of courts. But you should be hearing more about the receipt of those physical PPE items in the very near future. Between the other 2 categories, the governor is particularly acutely aware of, as we're told, the backlog, and is committed to addressing the issue of case backlogs. Although no dollar amount has been decided at this time, we understand that the governor is going to be providing assistance to address this need from that initial bucket of money that has come to the states. So you should be expecting more movement on the personnel piece that we had asked for to help with case backlogs. The third piece, facility and IT upgrades, I have been told to report that those likely will not be considered until after the state receives its full allocation of ARP funding. So, Chief, that's my report at this time on where we are in receiving state ARP Plan Act funds from 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. And that is about all we can report at this point. The hope is you will be getting soon. We're still trying to figure out the exact kind of flow of these things, the mitigation type PPE, and then some money for beefing up personnel for backlogs. One thing as we look at all these funds, particularly the ones we're not getting yet, is to think about and make sure that when we're getting funds for infrastructure type things like IT, that we have the ability to maintain that over time. All of this money is somewhat time limited. And so, spending it on things that will be good while we get this money, but then there will be useless unless you can continue to pay for licenses or upkeep or maintenance, is not a very thoughtful way to spend the money. So as we go forward, keep that in mind. You may need to talk to your counties or cities about, the ability to keep the amount of money you would need to maintain or support infrastructure type projects going forward. Are there any questions for Justice Boggs, or you have anything else to add?
I don't. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Well, we'll hopefully have a little bit more information, at least on how these resources will be going out the door in the very near future. And I know Presiding Justice Boggs is joining us from another meeting and probably will need to cut off soon. So feel free to do that. I appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
We're now going to move to reports from the members in judicial branch agencies. And again, I think the big question is kind of, are you hitting any problems as we move into kind of a new phase of the pandemic, or having anything particularly happen that's good? One other thing I forgot to mention is please do keep in mind, and we've talked about this a number of times, but if you need court rules amended or further amended, or the emergency amendments continued as a permanent thing, or if you need statutory fixes, start thinking about those. Please talk to your members, feed those things to your rules committees and your legislation committees, because particularly on the legislation side, the clock is ticking pretty quick to get things in the hopper for the next legislative session. And if we do want to make things permanent or get things changed based on our experience with the pandemic, we need to be working on that. I will update from the Supreme Court's perspective. We are operating fairly straightforwardly. We plan to do our oral arguments in person for the most part, although we're allowing a remote option if the parties request and we approve it. Our building is no mask if you're vaccinated, masks if you're unvaccinated. And our caseload is actually somewhat down, but that's because we know you in the trial courts are going to be ginning it up, and in a few years we're going to be inundated with a number of appeals. Judge Rickman from the Court of Appeals, do you have an update?
Nothing to report other than congratulations again, Chief Justice Namias.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to you as well, and look forward to working with you. Judge Davis from the Business Court.
Nothing to report. Thanks, Chief.
Judge Padgett from the Council of Superior Court Judges.
Nothing to report, Chief. Thank you very much.
Can I ask, while we're on Superior Court judges, we've got a number of the district administrative judges. Any problems or issues that any of you want to bring up at this point?
If they do, they're in trouble because they didn't ask me, because I've been asking if they had anything.
All right, that's good. Always worth asking.
Mr. Chief Justice. Mr. Chief Justice, from the Council of Superior Court Judges and with the sponsorship of the Columbus Bar Association, we'd like to extend an invitation to all the members of the Judicial Council and their staffs to join us for a reception in Columbus on April 12th, the afternoon preceding the next Judicial Council meeting, which will be hosted here in Columbus.
It's a very kind invitation, and I hope many members and staff will be able to join you.
Art, you meant August, right, Art?
August.
August 12th.
You said
absolutely. Well, no, we're not planning that far ahead, but August 12th.
Thank you, Judge Smith and Judge Padgett. Judge Wong from the Council of State Court Judges.
Chief, nothing new to report other than in DeKalb County, we've started state court trial, misdemeanor trials, week of June 28th, working through a couple of issues with our Superior Court about summoning jurors or enough jurors to accommodate everybody, but things are going well.
It's good to hear. Thank you. Judge Price, Chief Judge Price from the Council of Juvenile Court Judges.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Just to report that I appreciate the Supreme Court approving our modification of Rule 12.2 to our uniform rules, which allows us to have video hearings on all classes of our cases starting today.
Thank you, Judge Price. Judge Lakes from the Council of Probate Court.
Thank you, Chief. Nothing to report at this time other than we will be looking to take advantage of hopefully some updated rules for our uniform rules to extend the emergency protocols, and just appreciate you extending that to give us time to make those more permanent. Nothing else to report.
Chief Justice seems to be muted.
Chief?
Yes,
Yep,
Chief.
I got it. I'm sorry. We did extend all the video conferencing rules for the various classes of court for it. They were going to expire along with the statewide order, and they've been extended for a year, but the formal rules process for many of your classes lasts almost a year. So to the extent we do want to make those permanent with any tweaks, we hope you're starting to think and work about on those. Judge Casper from the Council of Magistrate Court. Judge.
Thank you, Chief. Not too much to report from Magistrate Court other than we are well aware of the looming evictions situation, and we're all trying to get as prepared as possible as we can for the uptick in new cases and the backlogs that have been created in a lot of the big counties and some of the small counties. We also did review the AG letter and kind of took the stance that that's really more of a legislative issue, but are happy to take any recommendations from you all that you come out with later. And we're also happy to work with Judge Ponder from the AOC in whatever she's trying to get out there to the rest of the counties that do not have action plans implemented for getting help from resources like legal aid and whatnot. So we're ready to dig in deep with this eviction stuff.
I appreciate it. It's definitely one of the kind of looming issues for our court system, and appreciate that you and the judges on your council as you deal with it. Judge Duff from the Council of Municipal Court Judges.
Thank you. We have, as you know, a great deal of courts we've opened up. For the most part, our judges are concerned about the safety of the public due to the non-voluntary nature of court, of course. I did do a sort of informal poll of our membership to see if there has been any concerns about what's going on. For the most part, it seems that our members are still either requiring masks of everybody in social distancing or requiring masks of unvaccinated folks. There has been some pushback, mostly among the public, of being asked about being vaccinated. And there is some questions, even among our members, as to whether or not the governor's executive order regarding vaccine passports forbids us from asking whether or not people are vaccinated. So we are hopeful that this council can give us some clarification and that somehow there can be some sort of safe harbor provision somewhere that will protect us. I can tell you that just from social media, there has been a good bit of uproar about the courts asking about vaccinations and threats of lawsuits. I don't know how real they are at this point, but if there can be some official clarification about whether or not we are exempt from, or even if it applies, because we're certainly not forbidding anyone from entry, and we are generous about granting continuances whenever people don't want to comply with mask wearing. But if we can get some clarification, some official clarification, that would certainly help us out in policymaking.
I appreciate the update, Judge Duff. I think the governor's order, like almost all the governor's orders during the pandemic, have not applied directly to the courts. What complicates things, though, is many of our courthouses, including probably very many of your courtrooms, are in buildings that actually are multi-use, and the other people in your buildings, including the people potentially doing the security at the front, may be subject to the order. So we are leaving it to the judges of the various courts, sometimes under the Chief Superior Court judge, to decide how to implement safety rules. But one other thing I would ask everyone to always remember is just the status of people you are requiring to come to court who may not have the ability to be vaccinated, particularly if you have children under 12 who are not yet eligible to be vaccinated, or people who are immunosuppressed or otherwise, or have a conscience reason. That is a different class than people who are simply choosing not to be vaccinated. And we owe those people the obligation to keep them safe. So, President Fight from the State Bar of Georgia.
Thanks, Chief. I look forward to working with everyone this year. And I just wanted to let this body know one of my areas of interest or focus this year is going to be expanding the lines of communication between the bench and the bar, meaning the actual lawyers of the State Bar of Georgia, not just our entity. And so I look forward, I see this as a natural progression from a lot of the work that we did this year with the COVID task force. So I look forward to working with everyone, and don't be surprised if your class of court hears from us on ways in which we can help facilitate and get information out there and help disseminate it. And I just look forward to working with everyone. And if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do to help make things easier in your space or get out information, I'm always willing and available to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clinton from the AOC.
Yes, I've got some brief updates. The AOC remains fully functional and our staff is returning to the offices on a rotating basis. We are also working on a hotel room block for the August 13th Judicial Council General Session in Columbus, and should have that information to you next week. We're going to get you that information through your executive directors, so they'll be hearing from us. Also, the misdemeanor probation and felony probation cards, there are two of them, have been updated to reflect the recent legislation and are available on our website. And here is the link to the bench cards. You can also find it by going to georgiacourts.gov. Just as meeting reminders, July is a busy month for Judicial Council committees. We've got a Judicial Workload Assessment Committee meeting tomorrow on Zoom starting at 10 a.m. That's Friday the 16th. Both the Judicial Council Budget and Legislation Committee are going to meet by Zoom on Wednesday, July 21st. The Budget Committee starts at 1 o'clock, and then the Legislation Committee is at 2:45. So Wednesday is going to be a busy day. And then wrapping up the week on Thursday, July 22nd at 2 o'clock, there's going to be a hybrid Judicial Council Technology Committee meeting. So those are just some gentle reminders. We are happy to serve you and welcome again to all the new Judicial Council members. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Now some reports from judicial branch agencies. From the Council of Accountability Court Judges, do we have Judge Smith or Taylor Jones?
Hi, good afternoon, Chief Justice. This is Taylor Jones from the Council of Accountability Court Judges. Just one brief, quick update. As of July 1st, CACJ has been able to resume our on-site technical assistance and trainings for the courts. However, we are still able to offer virtual options if and when they are needed. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. From the Council of Superior Court Clerks, Ms. Robinson or Mr. Holloman? No? They may not be on. Okay.
Nothing to report, Chief. Thank you.
Mr. Holloman. All right, from the Commission on Professionalism, is Carly Greer on?
Yes. Hi, Chief. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. First of all, congratulations to you, the new PJ, and our new Judicial Council members. The Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism has since June 1st been advertising a grant. We are awarding grants for programs or projects that promote professionalism. The deadline is today, July 15th. So I just wanted to remind everyone about that deadline, and the information about the grant is on our website at www.cjcpga.org. Currently, we're working on our law school orientations. I'm very excited that 4 of the 5 law schools will be moving forward with in-person orientations this year. John Marshall has elected to do a virtual-only orientation this year. The orientations are coming up on August 10th, 12th, 13th, and 21st. And For those of you who signed up to be group leaders, you should be hearing from us within the next week. And that is a brief update from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robin Rooks from the Council of Court Administrators.
Thank you, Chief. We have nothing to report.
Okay. Mr. Ashworth from ICJE. Sure, if Doug is on. They've got a lot of meetings they're planning for your councils over the summer. And finally, Mr. Boring from the JQC.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the body? All right. Our next meeting will be hopefully in person in Columbus on August 13th. If we have any dramatic changes, either on the pandemic side or the response side, please let us know, and we can always schedule another meeting in between, but hopefully we're going to get back more toward the normal order. I appreciate all your time today. Again, congratulations to the new members of the Judicial Council, and hope to see you all on August 13th in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Take care, everybody.